Theo's suspicion had been growing for weeks, but it was in the quiet isolation of their rented house in Wales that it finally reached a breaking point. The house itself felt off, too big, too empty, as if it had been waiting for them. Susanna had been acting distant, slipping away to take calls, laughing at messages she wouldn't share, and pulling away whenever he tried to get close. One evening, after putting their daughter, Ella, to bed, Theo sat alone in the dimly lit living room, watching the fireplace crackle. Susanna had excused herself again, saying she needed to check something on her phone. He heard the soft murmur of her voice through the thin walls. His stomach twisted. It wasn't just a work call. He knew that tone, the lightness in her voice, the way she lingered before saying goodbye. Something inside him snapped. When she came back, he forced a smile, pretending nothing was wrong. They talked about meaningless things, the chilly weather, the weird way the house seemed to change when you weren't looking. But Theo wasn't really listening. His mind was stuck on her phone, now resting on the counter, screen dark. Much later, when she was asleep, Theo lay awake beside her, staring at the ceiling. His pulse pounded in his ears as he reached over, careful not to wake her, and took her phone. He hesitated for just a second before unlocking it. His hands were steady, but his chest felt tight. Then he saw it. A string of messages from an unsaved number. Flirty, familiar. Some messages had been deleted, but there were enough left to piece together the truth. I miss you. Wish I could see you. Last time was incredible. Theo's breath caught in his throat. A cold wave of nausea rolled through him. His fingers gripped the phone so tightly his knuckles turned white. He turned to look at Susanna, peaceful in her sleep, unaware that her carefully hidden secret had just unraveled. Theo sat on the edge of the bed, gripping Susanna's phone like it was a ticking bomb. His mind raced, flipping between denial and rage. Maybe it wasn't what it looked like. Maybe it was a misunderstanding. But deep down, he knew. The playful texts, the secrecy, the physical distance between them, it had all been leading to this. He forced himself to keep reading, scrolling further up the conversation. Most of the older messages were gone, deleted. But a few remained. The words cut into him like a blade. Can't wait to see you again. I hate sneaking around, but it's worth it. Next weekend? You pick the place. I'll make an excuse. God, I miss your hands on me. Theo's fingers trembled as he put the phone down. His jaw tightened, a deep ache settling in his chest. He had spent so much time convincing himself that his insecurities were in his head, that he was just being paranoid. Susanna had always brushed off his worries, teasing him for being possessive.
But now?
Now he had proof. A sharp breath left his lungs as he ran a hand through his hair. He wanted to wake her up, confront her, demand answers. But another part of him wanted to wait, to watch, to let her dig her own grave. If she had been lying to him for who knows how long, she deserved to squirm. He stood, quietly slipping out of the bedroom, his bare feet making no sound on the cold wooden floors. In the dim glow of the hallway, he tapped the number from her messages into his own phone. His pulse pounded in his ears as he pressed the call button. It rang once.
Twice.
Then, a voice answered.
Male. Smooth.
Confident. Hey, babe. You up? Theo's stomach turned. He clenched his fist so hard his nails dug into his palm. His throat was dry, his body thrumming with adrenaline. But he didn't say a word. Silence stretched between them for a second before the man spoke again, his voice quieter now, uncertain. Susanna? Theo hung up. His hands were shaking as he set the phone down on the kitchen counter. He stared at it, his breath coming in shallow gasps. He had imagined so many worst-case scenarios, but hearing another man's voice, hearing the way he spoke to his wife, made it all too real. Footsteps creaked upstairs. A door opened. Then Susanna's voice, groggy and confused. Theo, what are you doing? He turned, his eyes dark with fury. Susanna stood at the top of the stairs, wrapped in a blanket, rubbing sleep from her eyes. She looked so innocent, like she wasn't lying, like she wasn't breaking him apart. For a moment, he considered playing dumb, pretending he didn't know. but the anger boiling inside him wouldn't let him. He picked up her phone, held it up in the dim light, and asked the question he already knew the answer to. Who the hell is he? Susanna froze at the top of the stairs. The sleepiness in her eyes vanished instantly, replaced by something else. Shock, fear, calculation. Her grip tightened on the blanket around her shoulders as she hesitated, her mind clearly scrambling for an answer. Theo didn't give her a chance. He stormed up the stairs, stopping just a few feet from her. He shoved the phone toward her. Go on. Read it. His voice was low, dangerous. Tell me I'm imagining things. Tell me this isn't what it looks like. Susanna swallowed hard. She didn't reach for the phone. Instead, she crossed her arms over her chest, a defensive move. Theo, it's not. Don't. His voice cracked. He didn't want excuses. He wanted the truth. She looked away, her jaw clenching. It's nothing. Just some flirting. It didn't mean anything. Theo let out a bitter laugh. Didn't mean anything? Really? I miss your hands on me. That's nothing. He threw the phone onto the nearby dresser, where it skidded and thumped against the wall. How stupid do you think I am? Susanna flinched at the sound but quickly recovered, her face shifting into something colder, more defiant. I never slept with him, Theo. Bullshit. His voice echoed down the hallway. He didn't believe her. Not for a second. Her expression hardened. I don't have to explain myself to you. Theo's eyes burned. He felt like a fool. All those nights she had come home late, claiming it was work. The times she had smiled at him with that same soft, innocent look. He had believed it. Trusted her. And she had been making a fool of him the whole time. He took a deep breath, his hands shaking as he tried to steady himself. Who is he? Susanna hesitated again. And in that moment, Theo saw the guilt flash across her face. It was enough. He didn't need her to say it. His voice dropped to a whisper. It's someone I know, isn't it? Her lips parted, but no words came out. Theo's chest tightened. Rage, heartbreak, betrayal, they all crashed into him at once. He took a step back, running both hands through his hair. His breathing was unsteady, the weight of everything pressing down on him. Finally, Susanna spoke. It doesn't change anything. His eyes snapped to hers. Doesn't change anything? He let out a hollow laugh. Are you serious? You've been sneaking around behind my back, lying to me, and you think it doesn't change anything? She swallowed, her gaze flickering. I still love you, Theo. His stomach twisted.
No.
You don't. Susanna's face fell. Theo shook his head, stepping past her and walking down the hall, his mind spinning. He needed air. He needed to think. But as he reached for the door to their bedroom, he stopped. Something about this entire situation still didn't add up. He turned back to Susanna, who was watching him with wary eyes. Why here? He asked. Why would you bring me here, this house, if you knew I was going to find out? She didn't answer. And suddenly, a new, chilling thought crept into Theo's mind. What if this wasn't just about an affair? What if she had brought him here for a reason? Asterisk, asterisk. Theo's breath came slow and uneven as the weight of realization pressed down on him. His anger, his heartbreak, it was all still there, burning beneath his skin. But now, something else took over.
Dread.
Susanna stood frozen at the top of the stairs, wrapped in that damn blanket, her face unreadable. The silence between them stretched too long, thick and suffocating. Theo took a step closer. His voice was quieter now, laced with suspicion. You brought me here on purpose, didn't you? Susanna's lips parted slightly, but she didn't speak. Theo clenched his jaw. You knew I'd find out. You knew I'd see the messages. He pointed toward her phone, still sitting on the dresser, like a bomb waiting to go off. So tell me, Susanna, why? For the first time since this confrontation started, she looked truly afraid. Theo, please, just let this go. His stomach twisted. Let this go. He had just found out his wife was cheating on him, and now she was acting like he was the one overreacting?
No.
This wasn't just about an affair anymore. Something deeper was happening. Theo took a slow step forward. Who is he?
His voice was eerily calm now.
Who is he really? Susanna let out a shaky breath. It's not what you think. Then tell me what the hell it is. She hesitated, then whispered, I was trying to protect you. Theo's entire body stiffened. Protect him? His blood ran cold as he thought about the house. The way it seemed to shift when he wasn't looking, the strange feeling that something was always watching them. The way his nightmares had gotten worse since they arrived. A dark thought crawled into his mind, one he hadn't dared entertain before. What if Susanna wasn't the one in control? His pulse pounded in his ears. This house, what is it? Tears welled in Susanna's eyes, but she didn't answer. She didn't have to, because in that moment, something changed. The air in the hallway felt heavier, pressing down on him. The shadows in the corners of the house seemed to shift, stretching toward him. The walls themselves seemed to hum with something unnatural. And then, a door slammed shut downstairs. Theo's breath caught in his throat. He turned toward the sound, his body tensing. The house had been empty except for them and their daughter, Ella. But now it didn't feel empty anymore. Susanna wiped her eyes, her voice barely above a whisper. I told you. I was trying to protect you. Theo swallowed hard. From what? Her gaze flickered to the darkness behind him. And that was when he realized he was never supposed to leave this house.